Hello and welcome to Anything Fits Talk Show, where we talk about everything and anything about fitness, strength conditioning, and more. I'm George, alongside with my co-host Simon. We will bring you the world-renowned coaches that will share with you their success stories, experiences, and much more. We are so happy to have you here, as you will be able to join the show and ask your questions live. Simon, how are you? Come and join us.
Glad to be here for our first episode where we bring excellent presenters and let's get it rolling.
Good. That's super exciting, Simon. So let's get started. Our guest today has spent the last 25 years perfecting his work. He has a strong formal academic foundation, earned a bachelor's degree in exercise science from University of Montreal. He published his first book entitled 66 Strategies to Program Design in 2016, which shared insight into his philosophies on training, which led to a following of elite coaches from around the world eager to learn more. He has trained professional athletes in football, baseball, hockey, and is now focused on impacting and helping as many strength coaches and personal trainers as possible. Please help us welcome world-renowned coach Stephane Cazeault. Hello, Stephane, and welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Really happy to be here today.
Good, good. We're very, very excited to have you here. We're all aware that you have been involved in the industry of strength and conditioning for many years now, but what really got you involved, or should we say, how did you get involved in the strength and conditioning business?
I mean, like many of us, when I started lifting, I was 11. You know, like bodybuilding, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, all these guys were kind of like, you know, like the main driver that got me to want to train. And as I started training, I was big into martial arts, American football, and then it kind of evolved more towards performance, where I became passionate about the athletic training part of the whole strength training aspect. So then I decided to go to University of Montreal in exercise science. Then after that, I graduated in 2000, and then it evolved to continuing education, where at the time it was kind of like starting, right? Like in 2000, you had like Serrano, Ian King, Charlie Francis, John Berardi was just starting out. And then Charles, obviously, which was like my biggest influence at the time. And I just started doing a bunch of continuing education. It just evolved this way.
Mm.
Right. So as we see, you had a lot of mentors back then. And now, as we see you going, you're becoming more and more a mentor for a lot of new trainees and trainers.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like having mentors was super important. Like my first ever mentor was Larry Vinette. Like he's from Montreal. He's like a bodybuilding coach, and in 1998.
Nice guy. He goes way back, Larry.
Way back, like way back. And I know like he did like courses with Charles like in the early to mid 90s. So it was just kind of interesting to me because I started reading Charles's stuff in Muscle Media 2000 and like 95, 96. And then I saw Larry in 98 win the Quebec provincials in bodybuilding. And I want to look like him. So I reached out and hired him. And then it was just so interesting to see that he would lay out programs kind of like with that same layout, with the tempo. Back then it was like the 3-digit tempo and the rest period and all that stuff, the A1, A2. So, you know, it just got me really, really into it. So as I was doing my bachelor's, I was training under Larry. And actually, Larry trained me until 2005 before I moved to the US. So like it was like a 7-year relationship. So I learned a lot from him. Like directly, right? So like that, to me, that was even a bigger mentor than the continuing education I did, because I talked to him like all the time for 7 years, right? So then it evolved with Charles, obviously, because like he was the one where I thought that his style connected the most with me. And then I worked with Nelson Ayotte in St. Louis. He was a great mentor as well, especially when it comes to energy system. Worked with Andre Benoit, learned a ton from Andre. Work with Christian Thibodeau in 2006, 7.
Those are all big names.
Well. It was great. Like it was a cool environment. And that was only in St. Louis. And that's where we had like a lot of professional athletes. Started with NHL, evolved to NFL, then evolved to Major League Baseball, where I was fortunate enough that in 2010, 2011, 2012, I was hired as a high performance consultant by the St. Louis Cardinals. And that's really when I really fell in love with the intricacies of team sports performance and like dealing with the athletic trainer, orthopedic surgeon. I was in charge of the farm teams as well. So it was like a super formative for me in terms of strength and conditioning.
Good.
Great. So basically, with what you mentioned, you decided to move from Canada for Kyle with Kyle and Everton from the Canada to the U.S. Now you were based on the, the West Coast. Now you decided to move to the East Coast. With all those changes through the years, how did it affect your business model, and how those change evolve? How your model evolved over the years?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. So in January 2016, when we decided to start Kilo, at that time, we're like, okay, we can establish this company anywhere we want. So I'd always wanted to live in Southern California. So I said, so let's go there, let's do it. So we arrived in Huntington Beach, which is like 40 minutes south of LA in Orange County, and started Kilo. But the funny thing is, initially in our business plan, we were just going to be a group training facility. There was no education, no one-on-one, nothing like that. And as we were building up the clientele and building up the gym, I started having a lot of requests for continuing education. So I'm like, why not do it? In the meanwhile, we're building up the clientele, and that kind of like grew to the point where last year, like in July of last year, like in the middle of COVID, when the governor closed our gym for the second time, we're like, you know what? Tired of this. We went to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico for 2 weeks, and we kind of like, the three of us, Kelsey, Alex, and I, kind of like took a step back and evaluate after 5 years where the business is. So we're like, okay, our lease with the space that we are in Huntington Beach ends July 31st, 2021. So like in 6 weeks. So we're actually still paying rent in California right now. So we're like, okay, now the education evolved. Our group training is doing well, but the education really, like, you know, like way beyond the gym per se. So we were passionate about that. That's really what drove me and motivated me, creating course content and teaching students. So we're like, why not switch our model to education and online services instead? So because of that, it just made more sense for us to be on the East Coast, specifically in Miami, for personal reasons as well. But the majority of our followers, of our students, are East Coast US, East Coast Canada, United Kingdom, you know, all the Scandinavian countries. So it just made more sense being on the East Coast, being closer to them. And then business-wise as well, as I'm sure a lot of you know, like Florida is a little bit more business-friendly, where the state tax is 0%. They do a lot of push to try to bring businesses in. And Miami per se, it's just booming. It's just crazy. Everybody's moving here. So it's, I mean, it's a good thing we're here now, because it's starting to get harder and harder to find places.
So one of your main strategies to move from the West to the East Coast was also the accessibility for others to come and join you, right?
Yeah. That was one of the things, you know, like, you know, on a personal level, of course, I wanted to be in a place that was cool and enjoyable and beach and hot and, you know, kind of like what we had in Southern Cal, but more business friendly and more accessible to the students, and also a little cheaper for the students. Like the hotels are slightly cheaper, the restaurants, the food, the flights are cheaper. So, you know, it just made it a little bit better for them. Like the feedback from the students we've had so far, from those that know that we're in Miami now, is like very positive. Most are pretty excited about it.
Great. I remember watching one of your video where you were talking about the proximity to pro athlete played a role in the change of location. Was it a major factor?
It was not a major factor, because, I mean, the truth is pro athletes will travel if they have to, but it did play a role, because These days, the athletes that I'm dealing with the most are Major League Baseball players, and a lot of them, their farm teams are in Florida, South Florida. So, during the off season, a lot of them also tend to live there. So it's just a little easier access for them to do off-season training being in Miami. It's a big, to be honest, LA is a big pocket too, but for pro sports, aside from hockey, the big hubs are Miami area, Dallas area, LA area, and Scottsdale as well. So it just serves that purpose pretty well.
So what would you say the main type of clients, which are the main types of clients that you train and that you're focusing on?
Well, okay, so like now in Miami, aside from the pro athletes, I won't train anyone. But in the last 5 years in California, our clientele were basically Gen Pop, the 35 to 55, executives, like housewives as well. But that was like our brackets that we have. We were about 65% male, 35% female. But it was group training. It was in a small group training environment, which was very stimulating for them. So that was it. We had a few younger ones, but the majority was 35, 55.
Excellent.
Great. So, given the fact that you train different population, as we all know, what is your favorite exercise that you can apply across all those groups? And can you please describe what you expect from that exercise and what you consider perfect form?
Wow. So
you must have a few of them in your booklet.
Yeah, sure. Like, what's Steph's favorite?
My favorite is deadlift, but
which by the way, Stephane, what we're going to do right now is we're gonna show the audience a video that you might maybe comment on it and maybe give us the right pointers on how to execute stuff. So here we're gonna show the deadlift for say. So here we go.
Okay.
So is Simon doing it properly right now? And what are the things that it be a novice, an intermediate, or an advanced athlete or trainee should be focusing on?
Okay, let's see. So like right now the video is not playing. I don't know if it's playing on your end, but
Or is it? Okay.
So perhaps maybe we should review the video one more time.
I can't see the video. Okay, there we go. Yeah, there's no video.
It's not like we're all gonna learn from this.
All right, so maybe we could try. Would you see it now?
But I see him, but I don't see the actual action. I just see him in the starting position.
It's just frozen.
Yeah.
It's just frozen?
Well, I can give you a pointer from that starting position right away if you guys want.
Okay.
So, first of all, the way I like to teach the deadlift, the one thing that I would change with this technique is, in my opinion, he's too much of in a squatting position in the bottom, meaning that the shins are traveling forward too much.
Okay.
And what would happen now is as soon as he would start the pull, by default, the barbell would need to move forward in front of the knees in order to clear a path, which would kind of negatively affect the line of pull of the deadlift. It would affect poundage in the long run, but it would also put him more at risk of lower back injury because of the center of mass being too far in front, the load being too far in front of the center of mass. So what I would do is I would push the knees back a little bit even if he needs to have a slightly higher hip position to initiate the pull, to have a more of a linear line of pull, and that the knees are not as much in the way of the barbell. Okay.
Good. All right.
Good. In terms of variation of deadlift exercise, what are the one that you really like and for which purpose?
Yeah. So to me, the way I look at the deadlift, look, so the classic conventional deadlift to me is a kind of like a base builder, right? Now, my goal with an athlete or any population for that matter initially is to try to drive up the conventional deadlift poundages. So what I do is I look at the weakness of the lifter. So is he struggling more from the first pull, the initial pull from the floor? Is he struggling more in the transition point? Is he struggling more at the lockout? And then with that, it allows you to better identify the specialty deadlift you would use to help improve the lift. So for example, if he's struggling more at the midpoint to lockout, I would put a little bit more emphasis on the rack pull variations. If he has bigger issues with the initial pull from the floor, that's where things like deficit deadlift from 2 inches or 4 inches are very beneficial. So that's kind of how I look at it in the early parts. Now, once you hit a certain standard of strength on the conventional deadlift, now I move on to exercises that might be a little, for the athletic population, a little safer in terms of loading. So I'll use trap bars and try to load it a little bit more with bends, use a little bit more speed or velocity doing that deadlift pattern. Because the problem with the conventional deadlift, it's inherently, it's a very slow lift. So as you get your athletes to be stronger and you want to switch the emphasis more towards speed strength, it's just not the best exercise for speed strength. That's where like the trap bar to me becomes a very effective tool for these things. Although the trap bar, it's kind of like a hybrid, if you want, between squat and conventional deadlift, but no, it still remains a decent hip extension movement.
Would you say it's a safer bar to use, or it's just like a normal conventional bar?
No, it's definitely safer to use because the load is more central. It's easier to learn, definitely easier to learn. But to me, though, if you really want to build a strong posterior chain, I do think that the conventional deadlift, assuming that you have good technique, has a little bit more upside to me, because you really need a strong back to withstand that load being in front of you.
Yeah.
Very well. Well, listen, what are your 3 tips? I mean, you've run a successful business, you're a successful coach, you've done seminars all over the world. Our audience obviously wants to know more about Stephane Cazeault, but what would there be 3 tips as business-wise that you'd like to share with our audience?
3 tips business-wise. I would say that take your time in the industry, solidifying your not only your name but your skill set. So, for example, a lot of young coaches want to open their own gyms, their own facilities. But if you're 23 years old and you've worked in a gym for 6 months, that's all you have, and you've never had a management position, you've never hired people, you've never looked at the financials of a gym, it becomes very daunting to be like, okay, now I'm going to start my gym because I love training and I prefer my gym than training at another gym. It might be a huge mistake because you're not seeing all the ins and outs of what it is to actually run a business. So to me, like in my career, I've been in a position where I managed staff, I hired staff, I looked at the financials, I was dealing with the ownership. So it really allowed me to have more confidence in 2016 when I'm like, okay, now I'm 37 years old, I'm ready to open my own facility because I felt I had enough background behind me to do it. So that's one thing. Second, I always tell, that's maybe it helps with business, but maybe has a little bit more to do with being a coach. I find that, and that's generational probably, like I'm Gen X, right? I'm going to be 44 in a month and a half. But me growing up, all I wanted to be was the best strength coach in the world. That's all I wanted to be. I saw Charles, great strength coach. I'm like, that's what I want to do. All I wanted to do was train athletes and get them the best as possible. So I become the best strength coach. So I put all of my focus and attention on that. That was my focus. I tried to get better at that. I read on that. I coached with that in mind. Now, the problem now with the young coaches, and I feel bad for them sometimes, is the industry now is loaded with, so you have strength conditioning, functional medicine, manual therapy, blah, 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 mobility. And then the young coach feels that they need to know everything to have their place in the industry. But while you're trying to learn everything, sometimes you're not really pushing one aspect that could set you apart, right? So to me, I was always more of the, no, I don't want to do manual therapy because I don't care for it. I'm not passionate about it. So for me to spend time learning this for something I'm not passionate about, it would pull away from me perfecting my craft as a strength and conditioning coach, as a program design periodization guy. It's cool, but I prefer referring to somebody who's passionate about that. Same thing with functional medicine or functional nutrition. It's very interesting. I have good base. I worked for Polygon Group. I worked with Charles. I did BioSig 9 times and all that stuff. It's very interesting. But am I passionate? No, not really. So I'd rather refer somebody to that, right? So that, I think it still has its place today, right?
So how key is education and learning in this industry that you're involved?
I mean, I think it's key. I think, especially in your formative years in your 20s, I think, to me, it's important that a young coach that's passionate about being a coach to do as much continuing education as you can to not only learn more, but also to kind of find your niche, right? So I did a bunch in the beginning. He and King is great, but the style of his programming didn't connect with me as much as Charles. So then I found kind of like my niche in the strength training industry, right? So because there's so much now, you have so many different styles. You have, one guy I respect a lot, Chad Wesley Smith, down in California. He's great, very knowledgeable, trust him 100%, but he has a different style than me. Doesn't mean that mine is better than him. No, but it's still different. But somebody that comes to one of my courses and then see what I do, and then 6 months later goes to a Chad Wesley Smith course, and he's like, "Oh shit, I connect with that."
Right.
Go for it. Like find your own niche, find your passion, find your style, and I think you can only really do that if you commit to many different courses. And then once you have your style or niche or whatever you might call it, then you can like specialize your education in that specific field.
So any upcoming events, even though this COVID is restricting us in many things, what's next for Stephane Cazeault and Cazeault Strength and the team behind?
Yeah, well, as of right now, we're like in 3 hours, I'm visiting a location. So as of right now, my priority is finding the location for the new facility. Once that's set, once we know that international travel is open, we're going to release a live education schedule. We might probably still release a course in the fall for the US market since they can travel more freely. But the truth is, with almost every course that I teach, at least half of the attendees are Europeans, Australian, Canadians. So I still want them to have chance to do education. So we're kind of waiting for that. But the location is the priority right now. Like in a perfect world, August 1st. Because our lease ends in California, July 31st, our equipment is still there. So in a perfect world, August 1st, our equipment would come back in Miami and we'd be ready to start. But who knows with these things?
So how can people get in touch with Stephane Cazeault? If you have a Facebook page, if they want to ask you questions, how could they reach out to you?
Yeah, so we have Facebook and Instagram, Kilo Strength Society, where you can message and reach out. I have my personal Instagram page, Stephane Cazeault, where you can message me and look at the content. We also have our website, kilostrengthsociety.com, for all the course information and everything.
We'll put your link down below later on after the show so that people could get in touch with you. So, Stephane, we'd like to thank you for having shared your experience and wisdom with us today. It's been a pleasure for Simon and I. It's no wonder why many students and coaches love attending your lectures and speak so highly about you. And to all viewers out there, thank you for having spent the time with us. And we hope you have learned something today. Until next time, stay strong, safe, and tuned.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciated it.
Our pleasure.